Om Namo Narayanaye. Om Namo Narayanaye.
Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So today we're going to look at the 1978 Arcana Paddhati that was authorized by Srila Prabhupada, and it was published by Jaya Tirtha, translated from the Gaudiya Math book of the same name, which was instituted by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, translated into English by Jai Satchinandana. So we're going to look at page 38 here. And we're talking about the asana shuddhi. Asana shuddhi. So asana is a seat, and shuddhi means to purify the seat, to make it pure, like that. So we have to sit on a seat to perform many, sit or stand on a seat in order to perform many rituals in deity worship. And so we have to. Here we're going to explain how to do that. So we have here first an unabridged procedure, and then we'll have an abridged procedure. So the first procedure is unabridged. So it's a longer procedure. Spreading out the asana or seat on the floor. And this asana can be, there's many different types of asanas. If you want to see the explanation of different types of asanas, go to Hari Bhakti Vilas and probably my video on Hari Bhakti Vilas, chapter 17, which is about Puruscharana. And there are different types of seats that you can sit on for doing different rituals. Okay, but in any case, it's some sort of pure asana, either wood or kusha grass, or it could be made of wool, some pure item, silk. And so first of all, spread out the asana on the floor, and then perform sadharana achimana. Now, sadharana means general. Achimana means sipping water for purification. And you can find this achimana. Vaishnava achimana is mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilas. The type of achamanas that are mentioned in this book is they divide it into two. They divide sadharana, the general achmana, and the vishesha achmana, which is a more special. Vishesha means special or specific achmana, which is the one with 24 names of Vishnu, starting from Keshava and ending with Krishna. The sadharana achmana, I believe, just has, according to this book, is just an abbreviation of that with just three names: Keshava, Narayana, Madhava, sipping water, like that, washing your hands. So that's very simple. So do that achmana, Keshava Namaha, Narayana Namaha, Madhava Namaha. You can put Om in the beginning of those mantras if you want, and then wash your hands. Okay, so then one should place his right hand on the asana and chant. Right. And here is a mantra to chant. Now, the thing is, here it says, place your hand on the asana. But actually, when people do this, the mantra that you're going to chant is called a mantra nyasa. It's a mantra nyasa. Each mantra has a rishi or a sage who is associated with it, has a deity that it is addressed to, right? It has a chanda or a poetic meter, right, in Sanskrit, and has a purpose, right, which is also called a viniyogaha. So before we chant every mantra that we know, we should also know the sage of that mantra, the rishi. We should know the poetic meter, the chanda. We should know the particular devata, the particular deity that it's addressed to, and we should know the purpose of that mantra, viniyogaha. So we need to know the rishi, the chanda, the devata, and the viniyoga. When people chant the mantra, before they chant the mantra, they remember those things. And when they remember those things, instead of putting their hand on the asana, then usually what they do is they take these things and they touch different parts of the upper body. So this is called mantra nyasa. Nyasa means to touch. Mantra means to apply, or it means to place or to touch. So to touch a particular place with a particular mantra is called a nyasa, right? So when we think of the rishi of the mantra, we say the name of the mantra. We think of the rishi or the sage of that mantra. We touch the head. You can do it with four fingers of the right hand. There may be some directions to touch different parts of the body with other fingers or other hands, even like that. We're not worried about that now. In general, when you do a mantra nyasa or any sort of nyasa, use the right hand, four fingers. Okay, so touch the top of the head and say, Om Asana Mantrasya Meru Pristha Rishihi. So what that means is, Om, oh my Lord, right? This is Merupristha is the rishi. Merupristha is the name of the rishi. So there's a rishi called Merupristha, right? And he is the rishi, asana mantrasya, of the mantra. This is in genitive singular case, mantrasya, asana mantra, the mantra of the asana, right? Of the asana mantra. Of the asana mantra, he's the rishi. Touch the top of the head. So Om asana mantrasya, Merupristha rishihi. Then we're going to say what the meter of the mantra is. The meter of the mantra is, and we don't need to know what the meter means, but it just has a particular name, right? And so the word for meter is chanda. So we say the name of the meter and then we say chanda. So we say Sutalam Chandaha. When we say Sutalam Chandaha, we either touch or hold in front of the nose or in front of the mouth where the mantra comes out, right? That we use the nasal passages in the mouth to pronounce Sanskrit mantras or any words, right? So we place our hand in front, right? Normally we don't touch the nose or the mouth, right? Because then we have to wash the hand again. So because it's one of the 9 gates of the body, which is considered impure. So what we do is we place it in front like this, and we meditate that we're touching that place, either the nose or the mouth, and we say Sutalam Chandaha. The meter of this mantra is Sutalam. That's the name of the meter. We remember that before we chant it. So now we need to know what is the devata, what is the deity that this mantra is addressed to, right? So we say the name of the deity and then we say devata, right? And when we do it, we touch the heart because we think of the devata or the deity as being situated within our heart, within the lotus of our heart, right? Like that. So we say Kurmo Devata, Kurmo Devata. So Kurmo means Kurmaha, means Kurma, means the tortoise incarnation of Vishnu. Why do we think of the tortoise incarnation of Vishnu before we to purify the seat? Why is the prayer praying to Kurma? Because Kurma holds up the mountain, Mount Meru, on his back. When the Kurma avatar appeared in the ocean of milk, and he was swimming, the turtle incarnation of the Lord, the Mount Meru was kept on his back, and it was, or Mount Mandara, whatever mountain it is, and it was churned, and they churned the ocean of milk and made nectar, made like a milkshake out of that, and made it into a beautiful nectar of immortality. Okay, so he kept it on his back, so he is one of the beings that holds things up. So naturally, you want to pray to the incarnation of the Lord that holds things up when you sit on a seat, because you want the seat to hold you up, right? So that's why we pray to Kurma. So Kurmo Devata, so and then we say Asana Pavasani Viniyogaha. For purifying the asana, that is the purpose. Viniyoga is the purpose. So we say Asana Pavasani Viniyogaha. Some people say Asana Suddhi Viniyogaha, whatever it is. There may be some other words there. When we say the Viniyoga of a mantra, so when we say the rishi, we touch the top of the head. When we say the chanda, we put it in front of our face like this, in front of the nose and mouth. And then we put the hand, touch the heart, or put it in front of the heart, touch the heart, and think of the devata, the deity that the mantra is addressed to. And after that, when we say the purpose of the mantra, we take our 2 hands, holding in front of our chest in Anjali Mudra, and then we go like this. We open up our hands and we fold the hands inwards towards ourselves. And we can do that 3 times, right? When we do avahanam in deity worship, this is the mudra for avahanam. And when at the end of, which is invoking a deity, when we valedict or we send away the deity at the end, we do it the opposite way, like that. So we do this avahana mudra like this, when we say Viniyogaha. Right? Because we want Kurma to come and reside within our heart, and we're going to pray to Kurma, and we're going to pray to him that the asana will hold us up while we do the puja. Okay, so we'll run through it again. So asana mantrasya merupristha rishihi sutalam chandaha Shri Kurmo Devata or Kurmo Devata asana pavasani viniyogaha. Once, twice, or 3 times. It can be just done once is fine. One time. Okay. All right. So now that we've remembered that, we're then going to chant some mantras, right? So here are some mantras that we're going to chant. right? This is not the mantra. These are not the mantras that we're talking about when we talk about the asana mantras. That's going to come later. The Prithvi Tribe. That's probably that mantra. Anyway, so we say Om Adhara Shaktaye Namaha. Om Adhara Shaktaye Namaha. Adhara Shakti is the Shakti that holds up the altar, that holds up the universe. The Adhara Shakti, like that. So Om, we say, oh my Lord, unto your holding up energy, unto the energy that you use to hold up the universe, right? I offer my obeisances. Om Adhara Shaktaye Namaha. We can do this with our hands folded in front of us, like that. Then once you chant, Om Adhara Shaktaye Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha. Another, Ananta Shesha, right? Ananta is a transcendental serpent with 7 heads or 5 heads, and he also holds up the universes. He holds up different planetary systems. Yeah, so Ananta also is a deity that holds things up. So we can pray to Ananta. He's a great Vaishnava and devotee of the Lord. Om Anantaya Namaha. So, and then Kurmaya Namaha. Again, we're going to offer obeisances to Kurma, right? The devata of the mantra. Om Kurmaya Namaha. This is all these names are in the dative case. Unto Kurma, my obeisances. Unto Adhara Shakti, my obeisances. Unto Ananta, my obeisances. Unto Kurma, my obeisances. Yeah. Namaha means not for me, but for him. My respects to him. Namaha. Right. So we say Om Adhara Shakti Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Kurmaya Namaha. Then we go and with folded hands we're going to chant this mantra. And this mantra is in a sloka form, in the form of a verse. Prithvi Tvaya Drita Loka. Right? So that's Prithvi Tvaya Drita Loka. 8 syllables. So there's 4 lines of 8 syllables. This is a regular sloka or anustup meter, right? It's a type of anustup and it's called Sutalam. The Chanda, remember, we understood was Sutalam. So anybody who's really interested in Sanskrit poetics can go and look it up exactly, the long and short syllables and what Sutalam is, right? In Sutalam Chandaha. If you want to do that, you can go and you can check in Pingala Chanda Shastra, and you can go and you can find out exactly what the Sutalam is, and it will correspond to this sloka, right? So, Prithvi Tvaya Drita Loka, Devi Tvam Vishnuna Drita, Tvam Cha Dharaya Mam Nityam, Pavitram Chasanam Kuru. Right, now, I've also heard it say, Prithvi Tvaya Drita Loka, Devi Tvam Vishnuna Drita, Tvam Cha Dharaya Mam Nityam, Pavitram Kuru Chasanam. So it can be Chasanam Kuru or Kuru Chasanam. In Sanskrit, sometimes the words don't have to be in a particular order, and they still mean the same thing. So either Chasanam Kuru or Kuru Chasanam. We can look in Hari Bhakti Vilas. This mantra or this mantra is in Hari Bhakti Vilas, so we can look and we can see what the original version is in Hari Bhakti Vilas. But I can tell you, I've seen it, the same verse in many, many puja Paddhatis in North and South India. And sometimes they say Kuru Chasanam, sometimes they say Chasanam Kuru. Okay? What does it mean? O Mother Earth, the worlds are maintained by you, and O Goddess, you are held up by Lord Vishnu. Therefore, please daily maintain me and please purify this asana. Okay? This seat. Right. Then once you sprinkle some water from the Panchapatra. Panchapatra is a tumbler, or is a metal cup which has holy water in it, and it has a spoon called a nudoni, right? It's called Panchapatra because initially there were 5 of them. Maybe you have 5, maybe you don't have 5, maybe you just have 1. But anyway, we still call it the Panchapatra. So if we have 5, we have Padya, Agya, Achimania, Madopaka, or we have and Shurodika, or we have Padya, Agya, Achimania, Shnania, and Shurodika, like that. So these are the 5. But if we don't have 5, we have just 1. It's still called a Panchapatra. It's just the name that's given to it. It's a cup with water in it, holy water. Okay, so then, sprinkle some water from the Panchapatra, right? Either you take it directly from the Panchapatra or you take the spoon, right, in the left hand, sprinkle some water in your right hand, and then sprinkle it onto the asana. Or maybe just the people take the spoon with the right hand and sprinkle it directly from the spoon. I don't know. It's not very clear here. And place a few flower petals on it. That's what they say. Okay. So in practice, what I've seen is people will take some water and sprinkle it on the asana or sprinkle it somewhere, and they may say that Vyahritis Om Bhurbhava Svaha, like that. That's it. and it purifies the asana like that. If you this prayer and everything like that is possible. People do it, but I haven't seen mostly that they put flower petals or sprinkle some water and they sit. The asana should be spread out in front of and to the left side of the deity who is situated on the altar. Okay, so they're giving some, that part of it is not part of asana Suddhi. That's just the direction of where you should put the asana according to this book, how you should do it. Now let's have a look at the abridged procedure. Okay, shorter form would be just to lay out the asana on the floor in the place where they say to lay it out, which they're suggesting. And then perform Sadharana Achimania, which means that simple Achimania that I discussed before. And after this, sprinkle some water from the Panchapatra on the asana and meditate upon a service attitude to Mother Earth, right? Because the earth holds everybody up like that. In fact, in the morning, when we get up in the morning, before we put our feet on the earth, because the earth is one of the consorts of Vishnu, one of the consorts of Lord Narayana, one of his wives, and so she is very respected. We have to respect Mother Earth, Mother Bhumi, or Mother Bhuma Devi, and so therefore, when we get up, before we place our foot on her, we have to beg her permission to step on her, because if you're putting your foot on a revered personality is not considered a good thing in the Vedic civilization. Even pointing your feet at somebody is considered rude. And so therefore, when we get up in the morning and we stand up from sleep, we put our feet on the ground. And so before we do that, there's a prayer to chant. We won't go into it here, but there's another prayer to chant to Mother Earth like that. So since we're doing only this Arcana Paddhati here, so we'll leave it at that. So continuing on, we're going to look at section 16 in the Arcana Paddhati, 1978 Arcana Paddhati, edited by Jai Tirtha, translated by Jai Satchidananda, which is based on the Gaudiya Math Arcana Paddhati. We're going to look at this section is establishing the patras. Patras are vessels that are used in deity worship to hold different things, or to offer different things to Lord in, and articles of worship. Articles of worship. So let's see what it says here. How to establish them, those things. So there's a system of actually establishing these things before we offer them to the Lord. All right. So after performing asana Suddhi, which we just talked about, one should sit on the asana in a Swastika asana, half lotus sitting position. Swastika asana, you can look it up in some yoga books. Basically, with one leg, the shin of one leg up on and one foot up on top of the other leg. It's not a full lotus. The full lotus is when it is a difficult position where both feet are on top of the opposite knees or opposite thighs. But the half lotus is where the let's say the right leg shin is on top of the left leg, something like that. And of course, it's covered by the lower cloth, either dhoti or sari, depending on whether you're a man or woman. And so the foot isn't shown, because the foot which is up will be shown otherwise. So it has everything has to be covered by cloth. Okay, so or in the Padmasana. Padmasana is as I said, the full lotus position. Here it says cross-legged sitting position. I think Padmasana is a mistake here. Padmasana is not a full. Padmasana is the lotus position. It's a full lotus position. Swastikasana is more, like they say here, a half lotus position. The cross-legged sitting position, which is an easy position like that, is I forget what it's called, but there's another name for it, and it's just easy position. So anyway, they're suggesting here in brackets that you can just sit in an easy pose, in an easy way, with your legs crossed on the floor. Okay. So now sometimes we have to perform worship when we're standing, right, in front of the altar. Sometimes we do it sitting. So they're saying here, when you're sitting, you should tuck your legs into your body. Because if you have your legs out when you're sitting like that, they'll be pointing towards the deity, or they'll be pointing towards someplace, and that's not considered a good thing. So some sort of position where you're sitting and your legs are folded either under you or beside, in towards your body. That's important if you're sitting and doing a ritual, right? So now just simply sit in an easy way. That's what they're saying basically. Now one should begin to establish the patras, the vessel, the containers, and articles of worship in their respective places on the floor. So here they have an unabridged version, which is a version which is longer and more complex, and they'll have an abridged version later on, which will probably just place them out in the positions in front of you or beside you that are easy for you to use and are according to this procedure of worship. So first of all, one should establish the Panchapatra, right? So they have a diagram. So the Panchapatra is labeled E in the diagram. Once again, the Panchapatra is used for yourself to purify your hands, to say Achimania. It's mainly meant for yourself, to sprinkle water perhaps on some other items, to purify them with water. So you're going to establish the Panchapatra. This is a metal cup with water, with holy water in it, or maybe it has no water in it right now, but it's just being established, and then we'll fill it up later. And it has a spoon that goes into it, a metal spoon called a nudoni. Okay, so we're going to establish this on the floor before and slightly to the right, before and slightly to the right of oneself. When I say before, it means in front of and slightly to the right of yourself. Okay, so this is done in the following way. Pour a few drops of water taken from a water pot. Okay, so you have a big pot of water. In Sanskrit, that's called a kumbha or a gata or a kalasha. There are different words in Sanskrit for a pot, and that pot is full of water. It's not stated here whether it's holy water or not holy water. There may be there's another section where it says how to make water more holy than it is naturally, and so we'll have this. We have this big reservoir of water in a pot, right? Or it could be a jug, or it could be a spouted water pot. A spouted water pot is sort of like a tea kettle, like that. It has a spout, and you can easily pour the water. You can pour a few drops of the water just by moving your hand. And some water comes out the spout and or out this. If you have a pitcher or a jug, it can come out the top like that. Otherwise, if you have a pot which is a big round open, it's very hard to get water out, a little bit of water out, unless you take a spoon. And in which case, you have a spoon, you can also do that and take some water and put it on. So it says pouring a few drops of water taken from a water pot. So let's think of it as a spouted water pot in Sanskrit, and in some places, and those things are called karaka. It can be called a karaka, or it can be called in South India. A lot of times they call it a gindi in Kannada or in some of the South Indian languages. Okay, so anyway, it's a spouted water pot. So we'll consider it to be like that, a water pot. So you take some water and you sprinkle some water on the floor there, a little bit of water. Now, using that water, you will probably, with one of the fingers of your right hand, it doesn't say which, right? But probably we'll use the ring finger of the right hand, okay? So we'll use a finger of the right hand to draw a triangular design. And they've given an example of that design here, right? So the reason for using the right hand ring finger would be this finger is called pavitra or pure. It's also it's also the finger that we use to put on the pavitra ring or the kushagras ring. If we use the kushagras ring to purify our hand, to have our hand be pure. So the other name for this finger is anamika, and that's because the other fingers have other names. Okay, so the thumb is called a mula, right? Or angusta or mula. Mula means root, angusta means the thumb, right? Then we have the cursing finger, the index finger is called the tarjini, right? Then we have the middle finger, which is called the madhyama, which means middle, right? Then we have the little finger, which is called the kanista, which means small in Sanskrit. And then because all of those have names, then the one that's left out, which is that ring finger, right, is called the anamika. Anamika, nam means name. Anamika means it has no name, right? But in fact, some people also refer to it as the pavitra finger because the pavitra ring is worn on it. And pavitra means pure. So we can use that finger. That's a good finger to use. We use it for tilak. We use it for a lot of things. That's a good finger to use. Some of these other fingers have other purposes, like the tarjini is a cursing finger. It has to do with blaming people or being angry with somebody. like, and some of these other fingers have different meanings. Okay, so we won't go into that here, but this, we'll probably take our ring finger of the right hand and touch the one of the drops of water that's on the floor, and on the floor with that water, move that water around with our finger and make that diagram. Okay, so here what they've given us the diagram is a Satkona, right? It looks like a Star of David. It looks like a Jewish star, but it's in Satkona in Sanskrit means it has 6 points, a 6-pointed star. Don't do a 5-pointed star. Don't do a 6-pointed star. Okay, so they've given that as the diagram that you should think, and probably what you're going to. The idea is that you're going to put the Panchapatra in the middle of that star, and that has some meaning, right? The star like that. Satkona is also sometimes equated with Sudarshana, the chakra of the Lord, and it's used in yantras, which are 2-dimensional deity forms. So the Satkona is a very common symbol. In fact, though, I have seen and I'm not sure, I have to check Bhaktisiddhanta's original like that. Normally in Bengal, they don't do a Satkona, but they do a Trikona, which means a triangle, right? An inverted triangle. So if we have a triangle, a normal triangle would be three sides, 2 sides pointing up and 1 side on the bottom. But in this case, we flip it around the other way and invert it, and we have the flat side on top and 2 sides down the side. So a lot of times they do it like that. This diagram of the Satkona also is the Indian way of, if anybody knows what yin and yang are, yin and yang in the Orient are the male and female energies, right? So here we have the male energy and the female energy, which are put together like that. That's the Satkona. Because the type of worship that is being done by Gaudiya Vaishnavas is in some ways it's got some elements of certain tantric rituals that are there in Bengal, right? So many times they use an inverted triangle, which is a symbol very much to do with Shakti or to do with feminine. So okay, so here they say to do a Satkona. Okay, if you want to do a Satkona, you can do it. If you want to do a triangle, with one flat horizontal top and two sloping edges coming together in a point, like an inverted triangle, you can. Okay, so on that place where the Panchapatra will sit. So you do that in the place that you want the Panchapatra to sit. Okay. So then chanting Omastraya Pat. Omastraya Pat. Astra is a weapon, means a weapon in Sanskrit. Or means is the prefix that we use for many mantras. It literally means "Oh my Lord," but it's a transcendental syllable made up, usually considered to be made up of 3 letters, A, U, and M. But here we see it's O-M. So Om Astraya. Astraya is in the singular dative case, and it means unto the weapon. Astraya. Sorry. Yeah, Astraya for the weapon. And then there are some mantras that end in different syllables, and these syllables come from mantra shastra, specifically tantric or agamic mantra shastra. Here, of course, we're performing worship according to Panchapatra Agama, which is a type of tantra. It's a white tantra. It's not black tantra, or it's a white tantra, right? It's a Vaishnava tantra. So some of these words like Phat, Hum, Swaha, Namaha, Volshat, Vasate. These are endings for mantras. So here we're using the word Phat like that. We can translate it maybe as crack. So Om to the weapon's crack, right? Like that. And we're saying that. And at the same time, we're sprinkling water from the water pot. Pour some water from the water pot into one's hand and sprinkle it on the Panchapatra, which has a spoon in it but no water. Okay, so we have the Panchapatra. According to their idea, we have the Panchapatra on a tray that we brought all the ingredients, which we call samagris in Sanskrit. We brought all the ingredients into the deity room. We've made the asana pure. We're sitting on the asana. We have a tray with all the things that we've brought in next to us, and we pick up the Panchapatra, which has no water in it, but it has that spoon in it, right? And either we pick it up or we don't pick it up, and we're going to then take some water in our hand and sprinkle for purification that thing. So normally what you would do is you would take the water pot, the spouted water pot in your left hand, put some water in your right hand and sprinkle it. Now, there's different ways of sprinkling water, but we don't go into that here because it's not gone into that much detail. But there's ways of, if you learn Sandhya Vandanam, when we're learning Sandhya Vandanam, we learn that there's ways of sprinkling water up and sprinkling water down and sprinkling water in different ways. So here we don't exactly know which system of sprinkling water, and they have different names in Sanskrit also, the different ways of sprinkling. So if anybody wants to know more details on that, we can talk about it some other time. Just get in touch with me and we'll tell you about the different ways of sprinkling things for different purposes. Okay, so anyway, it's just a simple sprinkling. You take some water in your hand. Now, which hand should you sprinkle water from? Probably not the left hand, which is used in the bathroom to clean yourself. So we're going to take the water pot now. Both of our hands are clean. We did Achimania. We cleaned our hands with water afterwards. So our hands are relatively clean. But for ritual purposes, we prefer to use the right hand. So we will then prefer to take the pot with the left hand, the spouted water pot, and pour some water into our right hand and then sprinkle the thing. Somebody may be very particular and they may say, okay, you have to pick up the pot with the spouted water pot with your right hand, pass it to your left hand, and then sprinkle some water in your right hand, and then sprinkle the Panchapatra with the spoon. Maybe somebody says to do it like that, because some people do that with the bell. Later on, we'll establish the bell, and the way to establish, when we ring the bell, many people, they pick it up with the right hand, pass it to the left hand, and then ring it in the left hand. So here we could do the same thing. Okay, so we pick up the spouted water pot in the right hand, pass it to the left hand, sprinkle some water from the spout into our right hand, and then saying Omastraya Pat, right, onto the weapon's crack, right, sprinkle some water on the Panchapatra and spoon, which are empty and sitting on the tray that we just brought them in from outside the deity room with. Right, so we sprinkle it and purify it with this mantra. Okay, so then and then it says the water that was in the Panchapatra when one performed Achimania before doing Asana Suddhi should be poured into the Visarjaniya Patra before establishing the puja paraphernalia. Okay, so what they're suggesting here is they're suggesting that the Panchapatra that you use for Achimania, right, is the same Panchapatra that you're now going to establish for the puja. And you should therefore throw out the water that you had in it before into a Visarjaniya Patra, which is also called a Pela, right, in South India, or we can call it a throw-out pot in English, right? It's the discard, anything that just needs to be thrown out. It's a rubbish bin, it's a trash bin, right? So we throw Visarjaniya Patra, we call it. Visarjana in deity worship means to valedict or to send away the deity. So it's not that we're trashing a deity at the end, putting the deity in the trash or telling the deity to go to the trash, right? Visarjana, in this sense, Visarjaniya Patra means that a garbage bin or a trash bin or a container where you throw the things that you discard, right? But we're not discarding the deity when we do valediction. Just because we call it Visarjana doesn't mean we're discarding the deity. We're just saying to the deity at the end of the puja, please, you can go back to the place where you're enjoying your Nitya Lila, your eternal pastimes. Okay. So, all right. So that's what a Visarjaniya Patra is. So they didn't explain that along the way, but a Visarjaniya Patra is a throw-out pot. Like that. So now, so they're saying take the water after you do Achimania, take the water, throw out the water, and then just have the water and probably put that Panchapatra on a tray and then sprinkle it. It has to be in some place where when you sprinkle it, it's not going to immediately be dirty, so it can't be on the floor now, right? So it should probably on the tray that you brought in, right? Now, my suggestion with this is you could just keep the Panchapatra that you're using for yourself and have another one. If this Panchapatra is for the deity, it's going to be used for the deity to maybe offer Argipatria. I don't know if it is. Maybe there's some other patras. But it's best to separate those two things. Have one Panchapatra for purifying our hands, purifying ourselves, and another complete one for the deity, like that. So probably they'll do that here, but as we go on, like that. It's a long time since I've been through this. Okay, so they say pour the water out and then place it. Probably after the water's poured out, it's placed on the tray with the other items that you poured in. The Achimania, the Panchapatra is probably in the deity room already. So you put it on that tray along with all the other items, and then you take the water and sprinkle it with the mantra. It should be noted here that when taking the mantra taking the water from the water pot, one should pour the water from the spout. Okay, so here, first of all, here's the first time that they've said that the water pot has a spout, right? Didn't say that before, that the water pot has a spout, but it may be that their diagram, they have a diagram and they probably show a spouted water pot and they probably list it next to a different letter. You can look it up. I'm not looking at that part right now, so I don't know. And it's probably listed as a spouted water pot. Okay, so the water pot, although they didn't mention it in the text, is a spouted water pot. Okay, so they take the water. It should be noted that taking water from the water, one should pour the water from the spout and not touch the water to one's fingernails. Okay, so once again, when we pour the water into the hand and then sprinkle, none of it is touching the nails, right? Because the nails are considered to be impure. So we don't want to contaminate the water that we're trying to purify something else with, right? So that makes sense. Okay, because this water will be used to fill the conch shell for bathing the deity. Right. Oh, okay. So also when you're picking up a pot full of water, right? If you're picking it up with one hand, sometimes it might be slippery, it might be big. So the tendency might be to put your hand inside the lid, you know, the big opening where you fill up the water pot. If you put your hand inside there to pick it up and pour water like that, because there's no handle. It'd be nice if there was a handle, right? That would solve that problem. But since there's no handle on the spouted water pots, right? That's why I said a teapot would be good, because it has a handle and a spout. So you don't have to put your hand inside, right? Obviously, because tea is hot, so therefore you won't put your hand inside. But here, because you have a water pot but it doesn't have a handle, some people might think to put their fingers inside the pot rim to pick it up and pour the water. But here is saying definitely don't do that, because your fingers touching the nails, your nails touching the water there will contaminate the water, which we're going to use to bathe the deity. So don't do that. Okay, so that's a good point. Right, so we're going to fill up the conch shell because we're going to bathe the deity from the conch shell, but that comes later. After washing the Panchapatra in this way, right, with the Om Adara Shakti, no, what is it? Om Astraya Pat mantra, right? One should chant Om Adhara Shaktaye Namaha. Remember when we did the Asana Suddhi, when we purified the seat, Adhara Shakti was the Shakti that holds us up. So we want to be held up on our asana. We also want to establish an asana for this container, So the mantra for establishing an asana, right, is Adhara Shaktaye Namaha, right? So now I would, or establishing something even inside the pot. If you're establishing something inside the pot, it's Adhara Shaktaye Namaha. Whenever you're establishing something. So here's a rule of thumb. Om Astraya Pat is for purifying things, sprinkling and purifying things. Om Adhara Shaktaye Namaha is for establishing something, right? Om Hridayaya Namaha means to the heart, basis is to the heart, right? Is for placing something in the heart of something or worshiping the heart of something, right? Om Shirase Swaha. Shirase means the head. Swaha is another one of these ending mantras like Namaha and Pat, like that. But Swaha is the name of one of Agni's wives, Swada and Swaha. He has two wives. But it's used in fire sacrifices. But here it's used in an agamic way at the end of this mantra. Shirase Swaha means to fill something up, usually to the brim or to the top. The head, Shirase Swaha, filling things up, right? Or for pouring, let's say, right? Om Shirase Swaha, for pouring. So we have a mantra for sprinkling, mantra for establishing, the mantra for placing something in the heart, and a mantra for pouring, right? So remember those, because in many other pujas that you perform, you will use these mantras: Om Astraya Pat, Om Adhara Shakti Namaha, Om Hridaya Namaha, Om Shirase Swaha, right? So now, it says after washing the Panchapatra in this way, one should chant Om Adhara Shakti Namaha, pick up the Panchapatra, which is now on the tray, right? And it's been sprinkled with water. If there's any water that's been sprinkled on it and it's fallen inside, you can swill it around and wash them. In fact, some people, what they do is they actually put some water inside the Panchapatra, a little bit, when they're sprinkling it, and then they swill that around to wash it, and they pour it in the Visarjaniya Patra in the throw-out pot, right? So you pick up the Panchapatra with Dharani, metal cup with the spoon and swirl it around, throw that rest of that water out, and then place it on that triangular design, either the 6-pointed star or the 3-pointed triangle, right? And you place it there, right? You can place it on the thing by saying Om Adara Shakti Namaha. I establish you, right? I'm establishing, right? I'm praying to the Lord's Adara Shakti to hold you up, just as I prayed to the Adara Shakti of the Lord to hold me up on the asana. Okay, so the next thing is with the mantra Om Hridayaya Namaha. Hrida means the heart. Hridayaya means unto the heart. I offer my obeisances unto the heart, right? The heart of what? The heart of the Panchapatra. One should keep a flower petal dipped in sandalwood paste in the Panchapatra. So take a flower petal, dip it in some sandalwood paste. All of these things will be on little trays on the big tray that you brought in all the ingredients in for the puja from outside the deity room. So take a flower petal with your right hand, dip it in some sandalwood paste, saying Om Hridayaya Namaha. Stick it in the middle, inside the Panchapatra, right? Inside the Panchapatra, in the heart of the Panchapatra, saying Om Hridayaya Namaha. Right. The sandalwood paste flowers and tulsi leaves should be kept nearby in their respective patras or dishes, metal dish-like containers. Okay, good. So that'll all be probably all on a tray that you bring them in. The sandalwood. So then it says, now one should pour water into the Panchapatra, saying Om Shirase Swaha. So again, you have the water pot, right, with the spouted water pot, and from the spouted water pot, which contains a lot of water, you're going to fill up at least 3/4 of the way or whatever it is, maybe not all the way to the brim. You're going to fill up the Panchapatra with fresh, pure water, right? Maybe it's holy water also that in which you've called the holy rivers to come. So, okay, so then you fill it up by saying Om Sirase Swaha. So you can either hold you can either hold the spouted water pot in your right hand, or you can, transfer it to your left hand, or you can hold it in your left hand and pour it in, whichever way you do it. Okay, it's not mentioned here exactly the different ways. Okay, so there might be some procedures, some prayogas that you read where they specify exactly which hand is to be used. Okay, so after this, with a flower petal dipped in chandan, so again, you take another flower petal, dip it in some chandana. One should perform the worship of the sun globe, right, in the Panchapatra, right? And the way you do that is to offer arti fashion, this flower petal with the sandalwood paste on it, and you chant the following mantra, Ete Ganda Pushpe, which means, Ete Ganda Pushpe means these two flowers, these two scented flowers, because Pushpe is two, right? It's dual. So these two flowers. So what they say here is take a flower petal, right? So strictly speaking, it's not a flower petal. It's not two flowers, but they're using a flower petal. So the Sanskrit is strictly speaking not exactly correct. But I'm going to offer those things anyway, and I'm going to offer it Om Arca Mandalaya Dwadasa Kalatmane Namaha. What does that mean, right? Okay, so Arca. So Om, we know what Om means. Om is another Bija mantra. Now, what is Bija mantras? Bija mantras are very short mantras which end in this M with the dot on top. Sometimes you see the dot underneath, but it's the same letter. It's called Anushwara. It is a pure nasal in Sanskrit. So the Anushwara, if you take a syllable in Sanskrit, is syllabic. It's written in different syllables. It's not really written in letters, one letter after another. It's written in syllables after syllables. So the syllables, of course, are made of letters. So if you take a syllable like Kleem, like a Bija mantra like Kleem or Shreem, like this, these are made up of a syllable followed by Anushwara, by this M, this pure nasal. So Om, you have O followed by Anushwara. You have U followed by Anushwara, like that. So these are called Bija mantras, very short, condensed mantras. The reason they're called Bijas is Bija in Sanskrit means seed, and they're seed mantras. So the seed contains the power of the whole tree, but in latent form, in unmanifest form. The power is there, but it has to become manifest. The tree has to grow. Inside the seed is the tree, right? So we use seed mantras to add power to mantras, right? In order, without without adding a lot of words. Without adding a whole lot of words, this is the basic idea is we add a Bija mantra. So right? And the Bija, I'm not exactly sure why the Bija is here like that. Then we talk about Arca Mandalaya. The Arca Mandala, the mandala is the ring of the sun, or the solar disk, the solar orb, like that. Not just the sun planet itself, but the sun rays go to a great extent. They come out and they wash the earth and everything like that. So the whole influence of the sun is the Arca Mandala. Sometimes a mandala is compared to a two-dimensional deity. A yantra is a two-dimensional deity. It can also mean machine. Yantra means machine, but in this case, in case of deity worship, it's a two-dimensional deity with many, sometimes with mantras and different drawings on it. And a mandala is also similar like that. A mandala is usually a representation of the universe, or at least the solar system, and it has different deities manifest on it like this. Here we're talking about the Arca Mandala. Arca Mandala means this, the sphere of the sun, right? Then it says Dwadasa Kalatmani, right? So Dwadasa means 12, and Kala means portion, 12 portions. So unto the 12 portions of the solar disk, or the solar orb, I offer my respects, right? What are the 12 disks of the solar orb? Well, there are 12 months in a year. There are 12 signs in the zodiac, right? So these 12 signs in the zodiac, which represent the 12 months of the year, the 12 months of the solar year, we don't necessarily use a solar year for our calendars, but we know that there is a solar year and there are different months in the year, right? And there are 12 of them. And so we're offering this to offer our obeisances to not just the sun, but to all the different aspects of the sun. The aspect of the sun in January, the aspect sun in February, in March and April, like that, or in terms of Sanskrit, the aspect in terms of Kumbha, Mesha, Vrishabha, Aries, Taurus, like this, Gemini, the different solar aspects, right? And there are 12 of them. So we say Arca Mandalaya, Dwadasa Kalatmani, right? So we take it and we offer it in arti fashion, and then we stick it to the side of the Panchapatra with the sandalwood paste. Now, some people might use the bell, but since we haven't established the bell at this point, right? We haven't got a bell to establish at this point. When we offer arti, usually we ring the bell in the left hand. We pick the bell up with the right hand, transfer it to the left hand, and ring it with the left hand while we're offering arti, right? So if we're offering this flower petals, or 2 flowers, it says in the Sanskrit, the flower petals, right? And to the Panchapatra, to the sun disk, which we're meditating upon, purifying the water in the sun, in the Panchapatra, we are going to, some people might want to ring a bell at that time. So if you have a pure bell sitting around, if it's already been established, then you can pick up the bell, either with the right hand or the left hand, usually with the right hand, transfer it to the left hand and ring it while you're offering like that. That will be the perfect way to do it. But here they haven't mentioned anything about the bell. And the reason is probably because in this particular procedure, they haven't installed the bell yet. Okay, fine. That's no problem. So we're just going to offer Arti style, and we're going to meditate upon the Surya Mandala, the Arca Mandala, and the 12 kalas, the 12 aspects of it, right? Right, Mesha, Vrishabha, Mithuna, like that, the different solar months. Okay, so then we're going to stick it to the side. Because there is Chandan on the flower petal, it will easily adhere. So if you have this Chandan, it should be not too watery, and also not too dry. It has to be in the form of a paste where you can take some on a flower petal and it will stick and won't fall off, like that. Don't worry too much when you do this. If you offer it and you stick and it falls off, don't worry too much about that. You don't have to repeat it, okay? It's the offering which counts, and the meditation which counts on the sun, on the Arca Mandala and the Dwadasa colors of the sun, the 12 aspects of the sun. So because there it'll easily adhere. Right, then one should worship the moon globe. Okay, so not only are we going to worship the moon, the sun and the moon, but we're also, okay, so when we purify things, a lot of times we meditate upon the sun. The sun is a purifying influence. The moon is also a purifying influence. Fire is also a purifying influence. So sometimes you'll see Surya Mandala, Arca Mandala, or Arca Mandala then you'll see Soma Mandala for the moon, and you'll see Agni Mandala or Vani Mandala, right, which means fire, right? So these are the three natural sources of fire: right? The sun, the moon, or the natural sources of energy. Let's say of light. We get light from the moon. We get light from fire. We get light from the sun. So these lights are the energy of these aspects. So these energies are what we are meditating upon, purifying these things, right? So because we not only should know how to do this ritual, but we should understand the meaning behind it, right? Okay, so so now we're going to worship the moon globe. So we meditated upon the sun globe and the 12 aspects of the sun globe. Now we're going to meditate upon the moon globe, and we'll see how many aspects there are of the moon globe, right? So then one should worship the moon globe situated in the water of the Panchapatra. We should think that the moon is situated there and purifying the water in the Panchapatra by offering a flower petal dipped in chandan in the same way. So take another one, right? At this time, we should chant Ete Ganda Pushpe. Again, it means these are two flowers. Ete Ganda Pushpe. These are two fragrant flowers, right? But we can take it. They've said just take one flower petal and dip it in some sandalwood paste. Okay, so Ete Ganda Pushpe. Om. Again we have Om. Soma Mandalaya. Soma is a name for Chandra or the moon, right? Probably somebody could say Chandra Mandalaya. Probably before somebody else could say Surya Mandalaya instead of Arca Mandalaya. There might be different procedures, but here they've used the word Arca and Soma. Okay, so Soma Mandalaya, right? The orb of the sun, the sphere of influence of the moon here. Sphere of Soma Mandalaya. Shodasha Kalatmane Namaha. Shodasha Kalatmane Namaha. So what is Shodasha Kalatmane Namaha? Shodasha means 16, right? Shodasha means 16. There are 16 parts to the moon. Well, okay, so if the 12 parts of the sun, the Dwadasa colors, are the 12 months, then what are the Shodasha colors of the moon? So we know in the solar year we have 12 months. In the lunar month, right? The word months in English comes from the word moon, right? One cycle of the moon is a month, right? So in the lunar month, one cycle of the sun is a year, right? So one cycle of the moon is a month. So the cycle of the moon, right, there are different lunar dates, right? So we go by a lunar calendar, right? Usually in the Panchangam, in the Indian system, Vedic system of calendar, and it counts what are called titis. Titis are lunar dates. So there are different lunar days. So how many lunar days are there? Well, the month is divided into a bright fortnight and a dark fortnight. The bright fortnight is called Shukla Paksha. Sometimes Gaudiya Vaishnavas call that Gora, because Gora Paksha, because Gora means golden, or means effulgent. So the effulgent fortnight, Shukla Paksha, usually it's called Shukla Paksha. And then there's the dark fortnight, which is called Krishna Paksha. In this case, the word Krishna doesn't refer to Krishna, but it doesn't refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but refers to the color black, the dark fortnight. So we have the light fortnight and the dark fortnight. In the light fortnight, we start off at the new moon when there's no light in the sky at night, right? And as we go through the dark fortnight, the light fortnight, from the no moon, from the new moon, which is called Amavasya in Sanskrit, up until the 15th day after that, which is the full moon or the Purnima, the moon will be getting bigger and bigger in the sky. It will seem to get bigger and bigger, and the light will get more and more until we get to full light on the full moon night, right? On the other hand, in the dark fortnight, or 2 weeks, half of the month, from the Purnima, which is the full moon, the brightest night of the month, down to the new moon or the Amavasya, when there's no moon showing, right, which is very dark. So there'll be 15 days, there'll be 15 lunar days, and where the moon is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and less light, that'll be the dark fortnight. Okay, so now we understand what the light fortnight and dark fortnight are, right? Okay, so how many lunar days are there in a lunar month? Well, there are 30, right? So why does it say 16 here? It says 16 because they don't count twice the lunar days from 1 to 14. from 1 to 14 in the bright fortnight and are called Shukla Paksha, right? And from 1 to 14 in the dark fortnight are called, these are lunar days or lunar tithis, are called the dark fortnight, right? Krishna Paksha, right? And then there are two more special days. There's the full moon and the no moon or the new moon. There's the Purnima and the Amavasya, right? So if we're counting the lunar days they are, we just count the Sanskrit names. So we have the first one is actually called Pratipad or Pratama. Pratama means the first day. So Pratama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi, Panchami, Shashti, Saptami, Astami, Dasami, Ekadasi, Dwadasi, Trayodasi, right? Chaturdasi, right? So that's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th in Sanskrit. So if I say Shukla Dwadasi, it means the 12th day of the bright fortnight. If I say Krishna Ekadasi, it means the 11th day of the dark fortnight, right? So we combine those things. We say the fortnight first, whether it's light or dark. We say the name of the lunar day second to tell us what part of the bright or dark fortnight we're in. So that's the way people designate different days in the month on the Vedic calendar or the Panchanga. Okay, so there are two other dates. So instead of saying the 15th day of the dark fortnight or the 15th day of the bright fortnight, we say the 15th day of the dark fortnight, 15th day after the new moon is the Purnima, and 15th day after the full moon, and the 15th day after the Purnima is the Amavasya or the new moon or the no moon, right? So those two have special names, Purnima and Amavasya, the full moon and the no moon. So we have 14 days which have the same names in the light fortnight and in the dark fortnight. So 1 to 14, they have the same names. So they're considered to be the same kala, the same aspect of the moon. The Pratama, the Dvitiya, the Tritiya, the Ekadasi, right? The Ekadasi is the same. We follow Ekadasi, we observe Ekadasi the same in the dark moon or the light moon, right? It's still Ekadasi, so we follow it like that. Astami also. Different tithis, different lunar days have different aspects, and they're basically the same, although for some purposes of muhurta, some purposes of planning to do certain pujas and things like that, we might also need it to be in the Shukla Paksha or need it to be in the Krishna Paksha. Might have to be in the bright or the dark fortnight. That's fine, but that's getting too complicated here. Here we have the 14 kalas, which are common to both the light fortnight and the dark fortnight. Okay, so we have those 14 in common. Then we have two more which are special, the full moon and the dark moon. 14 plus 2 equals 16. That's where we get the 16 kalas of the Soma Mandala. So here we're meditating upon those kalas, which are what? Which are lunar days. The lunar days are the month, which is the sphere of influence of the moon, is divided into 16 lunar days. Of course, the month is divided into 30 lunar days, but of 16 types. 16 types. There's Pratamas, Dvitiyas, Tritiyas, Chaturthis, like this, up to Chaturdasis, and then there's Amavasya, Purnima, right? So Sorasakala Atmane Namaha. Now, then we stick that flower petal after offering it, Ete Ganda Pushpe Om Soma Mandalaya Sorasakala Atmane Namaha, and stick it, right, to the rim of the Panchapatra. So the Panchapatra is a container. Sometimes it's seen to be a sort of a cylindrical container. Sometimes it's shaped more like an hourglass. Sometimes it's just straight up and down. And you stick to the middle of the side of it for the Arca Mandala or the Surya Mandala. For the Soma Mandala or the Chandra Mandala, the Moon Mandala, you stick it to the rim, top rim of it. Like that. Again, if it falls off, that's fine. Like that. The idea is to worship the Arca Mandala and the Soma Mandala within the Panchapatra and meditate upon the different sections. So after sticking the flower or flower petal with Chandan to the rim of the Panchapatra, after this, it says one should then wrap one sacred thread around one's thumb. Okay, so it doesn't exactly say how to do that, but most people. But this is seems like it's a Bengali custom. A lot of in the rest of India, people don't do this. But let's say you have a Brahmin thread. What you do is with the right hand, you take it like this, and then you just take it and then wrap it around like that. Okay. Yeah. So this is the Bengali custom, right? So you take it like this, turn it so the palm is facing upwards with the middle finger or the ring finger or whatever it is. Hold the one and then flip it over so that it's completely surrounding the thumb. That's normally what people do. Okay. Taking the sacred thread, wrap around one's thumb, meaning the right hand thumb, right? And with the hand in the form of the Ankusha Mudra. The word Ankusha in Sanskrit means a stick which is used to control elephants. The only mudra used in this Arcana Paddhati is the Ankusha Mudra. What it is you take the right hand, you take the two fingers, the little finger and the ring finger, fold them towards the hand. Keep the middle finger up. Place the index finger next to the middle finger and bend the index finger a little bit so that it forms a sort of a hook like that. So that is considered to be like a goad. That's an ankush. It's a stick which is used to control elephants. Okay. So then it says, and there's a diagram in the book, so you can check out the diagram. One should touch the water with the middle finger. So it's the middle finger. Touch it with the middle finger. Of course, remember we had that rule before. Don't touch the water with the nail, but touch it with the pad of the middle finger, and stir it. It doesn't say how to stir it, but normally when we do something auspicious, we do it clockwise or pradakshina. So stir on the surface of the water, right? On the surface of the water, right? Clockwise while chanting, Gange cha Yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati, Narmade Sindhu Kaveri, Jale Smin Sanidim Kuru. Okay, so this sloka is a sloka that says the Ganges, the Yamuna, the Godavari, the Saraswati, the Narmada, the Sindhu, and the Kaveri. These are 7 holy rivers in India, Mahanadis, and it says Jale Asmin Sanidim Kuru. May your water be present and come close and be present in this water here. So you're praying to the holy rivers to come and purify the water in the Panchapatra. Yeah. This mantra is given in Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's also a very, very common mantra and prayer to the holy rivers. There's some other, there's an alternate mantra. There's an alternate set of prayers that can be said according to Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is simply different names of the Ganges. In any case, this is a very easy one. So then one should be careful not to touch the water with one's fingernail, right? Which we mentioned before when we were picking up the pot, the spouted water pot, because we said don't touch the water there because it will definitely contaminate the water and you can't use it for bathing the deity. Then one should chant the Krishnamura mantra, Klim Krishnaya Namaha. So they're given the Krishnamura mantra here. This is a Mula mantra. Krishna, of course, means it has to do with the Lord Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mula mantra means it's a basic root mantra that is for Krishna. Now, some people might use some other mantras. The Gopal mantra is also considered a Mula mantra or a basic mantra for Lord Krishna. But here they've given this Klim Krishnaya Nama, 6-syllable Krishna mantra, beginning with Klim, ending with Namaha, with Krishnaya in the singular dative case. Okay, so unto Krishna, right? I offer my obeisance unto Krishna. Klim, I offer my obeisance unto Krishna. Okay, so over the Panchapatra 8 times. So what does that mean, chanting him over the Panchapatra 8 times? Normally, what people would suggest is that you take the thread, right? You wrap the thread, right? You're going to then do the Ankusha Mudra, right? You're going to say Om Gange Chaya Muni Chaya Godavari Saraswati Namade Sindhu Kaveri Jalismin Sanidim Kuru, pour the holy rivers into the water, and then you're going to on the right hand, without even leaving the thread off, or you could leave the thread off, right? You can either it doesn't mention it here, but either you leave the thread on like that and you just chant and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Or there are some other ways of counting too, but that's the normal way that people in ISKCON chant, right? Starting with the middle segment of the ring finger and they go down 2, 3, across 3, up 4, 5, 6. Okay, so they, how many times did it say? Chant 8 times. Okay, so 7, 8, right? Okay, so they probably say Tum Krishna Maha, 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 like that, like that. There's other ways of doing it. You can hold the right hand, palm down, left hand on top, and you can chant just to cover the chanting. Okay, because the reason for having a bead bag, the reason for covering the chanting when you're chanting the Gayatri mantra during Sandhya Vandanam is that they say that you should not allow the counting of chanting to be seen by other people or other living beings. There may be some devatas or some living beings that will take the fruit of the chanting if they see it like that. So like that. So we don't. So that anyway, it's a custom not to show the counting of the chanting. Philosophically, we can understand that when if you show counting, if you show that you're counting so many beads, so many rounds, so many mantras like that, if you're exposing that to everybody and anybody, what you're doing is you're involved in the false ego of saying, look at how much I'm chanting. Look at how many times I'm chanting. Now, this is probably chanted softly, upamamsu, right? Japa, it's without the lips and tongue may move to create the sounds, but it's very soft. Nobody else around you can hear you. Some people say, yeah, you're probably in your puja room at home or you're in a deity room in a temple. So why not? You can chant it out loud. Okay, maybe chant it out loud like that. So, but it's not that you sing it very loudly so that people outside in the temple can hear it. Okay, so it's not mentioned here. It's just understood that or maybe it's done in the mind. It's also possible to chant in the mind 8 times. Okay, so let's continue on. While doing this, sacred thread should be wrapped around the thumb, and the left hand should be covering the fingers of the right hand. Okay, so the way they say to do it is like this, and count and have the left hand on top to cover it, like that. I don't think what they mean is to have the hand like that, but it's possible somebody might do that. It's not very clear. It's not very clear. Usually the hand is palm down. Okay, so so that the chanting of mantras on the fingers cannot be seen. The chanting of mantras on the fingers, the counting of the mantras cannot be seen. So that is it for establishing the Panchapatra. The next thing that we do is that we're going to establish next one should establish the bathing conch, right? So you have a bathing conch in the diagram provided in the book that is labeled M. So there's 2 types of conches, of course. The conch that can be blown is cut at the end, and for you to place against your lips and blow air through it and make a sound. So if you see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna and all the other Kshatriyas, they had conches and they blow them and they made a big sound, and that sound is a very auspicious sound. So we use that auspicious sound also in deity worship. But there's another conch that we use for holding water to bathe the deity, right? Or there might be some other reason. Sometimes it's used to offer argya or some other reason like that. Some Vaishnavas don't use conches, or they use a silver vessel or a copper vessel that's shaped like a conch, but they don't use the conch itself because the conch is a bone of an animal, and as such, normally it's not considered to be pure. But some Vaishnavas consider it to be pure because they meditate upon it as being Panchajanya, which is the conch of Lord Krishna, which is obviously an auspicious conch. Right. So the other Vaishnavas have their argument against it. They say, well, there's only one Panchajanya. Krishna has that one, and we don't have that one. We have an ordinary conch from the sea. That's a bone of an animal, so we don't use that in our deity worship. But the shape is nice, and it reminds us of the Panchajanya conch that Lord Krishna has, so we can have that. We can have that instead. So you'll see in South India, especially Sri Vaishnavas, they won't use it. They normally will not use a regular conch from the sea. So before and to the left of oneself. Okay, so we just established the Panchapatra, before and to the right, and now before and to the left, in front and to the left of us, of where we're sitting, we're going to establish the conch. This is done as follows: pouring a few drops of water from the water pot on the floor, or say pouring it into your hand and sprinkling it on the floor. That can also be done, because I think that's what we did in the beginning for the Panchapatra. So the same thing, right? You either pour a few from the spouted water pot directly or indirectly. On the floor, we should draw again the same triangular design. So that can either be a Satkona star, or it can be a triangle, inverted triangle, on the place where the three-legged conch shell stand will sit. Okay, so the conch, if you're going to use a conch for bathing or for any offering arga, whatever you're going to use it in puja, it has to be on a stand because the conch itself is round, and it'll tip over if you simply put it on the floor. So we need to have a stand first to put it on. So first of all, we make a design on the floor where we're going to put the stand. And this stand has got three legs, right? It's on a tripod. So then chanting Om Astraya Pat. Again, this is the weapon mantra. We sprinkle some water, again, pour some water in the right hand and sprinkle it on the stand. The stand will be on the plate that we brought into both the conch and the stand will be on the plate. We'll take the conch, bathing conch off the stand, put it on the plate, keep it on the plate next to us, pick up, sprinkle the stand, Om Astraya Pat, with some water from the right hand, and wash it. Okay, so here's the diagram. Now we just have a quick look at the diagram. A is the deity sitting on an asana like that. Seems like it's a small asana. We have a bathing receptacle in front, and we have things set out in front of us. There's a pujari's seat. To the right of him, there's a big tray, R, and we have a spouted water pot, L, and then we have the conch, M, over here. And we have there's another conch, J, here, probably that is a blowing conch. All right, so we have incense and lamps, and then we have all these other containers, right? So they'll be referred to in the text. So after this, one should chant Om Adara Shaktaya Namaha. Remember, Adara Shakti is the energy of Krishna that holds things up, right? And place the conch shell, take the conch shell off, the conch shell stand, take the conch shell stand that we've just washed off the tray beside us on the right, and place it on the place where we're going to place the bathing conch shell. So we establish it there. Then again, chanting Om Astraya Pat, we should wash the conch shell, right? And then in the same way, and then place it on the stand. It hasn't mentioned here to say Adara Shaktaya Namaha again, but we have to say Adara Shaktaya Namaha and place it on the stand. So Om Astraya Pat, Om Adara Shaktaya Namaha, place the stand. Om Astraya Pat, Om Adara Shaktaya Namaha, place the bathing conch shell on top of the stand. Then we should chant Om Hridayaya Namaha and place a Tulsi leaf and a flower petal dipped in Chandan inside the conch shell. So in the mouth of the conch shell, inside it, like that, where we're going to pour the water. So remember Hridayaya Namaha you place inside the heart. Then chanting Om Shirase Swaha, one should fill the conch shell with water from the water pot. So take the spouted water pot, pour water into the conch where you just put the Tulsi leaf and flower petal dipped in sandal paste. Next, taking a Tulsi and flower petal dipped in Chandan, one should worship, right? Offering in arti fashion, and you might ring the bell in the left hand while you do this, right? Worship the fire mandala. That could be called Agni Mandala or Vahni Mandala, which means fire in Sanskrit. Standing by in the conch shell stand. So we're meditating upon the fire mandala. Remember, we had before in the Panchapatra, we had first of all the Surya Mandala, Dwarasa Kalapmane Namaha, and the the Soma Mandala, the Moon Mandala, which was Shodasa Kalatmani Namaha. Now here we have the fire mandala. The fire mandala, we'll see how many colors the fire mandala has. So how many sections? Okay, so one should worship the fire mandala in the conch shell stand by offering an arti fashion, a flower petal and Tulsi leaf, a flower petal and Tulsi leaf, right? So unlike the Panchapatra here, with the conch shell stand and the conch shell, they're saying to use a flower petal and a Tulsi leaf. Okay. Like that. I'm not sure whether that's there in the original Archana Paddhati Bhakti, whether you have to use a Tulsi leaf as well. But in any case, we're going to offer a flower petal dipped in sandalwood paste. If they say to offer a Tulsi leaf also, okay. So to the conch shell stand with the mantra Ete Ganda Pushpe, which again means these are two flowers, right? But actually what we're offering is a flower petal and Tulsi leaf dipped in Chandan. These are, what it says in Sanskrit is these are two flowers, Ganda Pushpe, scented flowers, or dipped in sandalwood paste, because Ganda can also mean that type of sandalwood paste. Ete Ganda Pushpe, and I mentioned also Tulsi Patram, right? Because you're also offering a Tulsi leaf. Om Mam, so we have Om and we have Mam. Here we have Mam as the Bija mantra. Now, one interesting thing that we can notice here, the first, when we installed the Panchapatra, right, with the Surya Mandala and the Chandra Mandala. So we have sun, moon, and fire. These are three aspects, or three origins of light in this world and three origins of power. So we start off with Am for the sun, for the moon, and Mam for fire. If we put A, U, and Ma together, we get Om. So we've actually taken the three letters of Om and we've broken them down and made basic Bija mantras from them. Am, Mam, right? Okay, so here we have the Mam, the third source of fire, right? So Vani means Agni. It could be Agni Mandala, it could be Vani Mandala. Here we have Vani Mandalaya. Dasa Kalatmani. There are 10 sections to the fire. And this is because there will be 10 different names of fires. Later on, if we talk about Homa Vidhi, there'll be some prayer to the fire, and there'll be 10 names of the fire, 10 different names for the fire. So we don't need to go into that in detail here, but the point is we say Om, or we simply say Ete Ganda Pushpe Tulsi Patram, Om Mam Vani Mandalaya Dasa Kalatmani Namaha, and we stick that Tulsi leaf and flower petal with Chandan to the base, to the stand, the three-legged stand on which the bathing conch shell is going to sit. Right? Then one should stick the flower petal with Chandan and Tulsi leaf to the conch shell stand.
Swami, excuse me, I have a question.
Sure.
Why we offer Tulsi leaves to the conch shell and to the stand? I don't understand. Good
question. Don't know. That's why I said some people might just do this with a. They might just say Ete Ganda Pushpe. They're offering Tulsi leaf. Maybe because it has something to do with Panchajanya, and they're considering Panchajanya to be, I don't know, an expansion of Vishnu or something. I don't know. I'm not sure. Just speculation. I have no idea why the Panchapatra doesn't get a Tulsi leaf, and the conch shell stand and the conch shell get Tulsi leaves. Don't know. Okay, so we have to look in some of the origins of this type of worship, which this is definitely a Bengali agamic or tantric system of worship, and we could look in the original Archana Paddhati by Bhaktisiddhanta 1935. This is not in the shortened version by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is before that, and probably there are some other Gaudiya Vaishnava Paddhatis which mention this system, and there may or may not be a reason given in one of them. I don't see it in Hari Bhakti Vilas. It's not coming from Hari Bhakti Vilas. Maybe, actually, let me preface that. These mantras may actually be in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So we can look at Hari Bhakti Vilas, but Normally, these sort of mantras will be only included in the Tika, in the commentary by Sanatana Goswami. So we have to look in Hari Bhaktula, see if it's there, and in the original Archana Paddhati. But to find out the reason, we will probably have to go to Bengal and ask, and learn a little bit more about the Bengali system of worship. So next one should take another flower petal dipped in Tulsi, in Chandan and Tulsi leaf, and perform the worship of the sun globe, right? In the conch shell by offering them, again, offering arti fashion, ringing a bell in the left hand, uttering the mantra, Ete Ganda Pushpe Tulsi Patram, Om Am, again, we have that Bij Am for Arca Mandala, which is for the sun globe, right? Arca Mandala, again, 12 kalas. Dvarasa Kalatmane Namaha. Ete Ganda Pushpe Tulsi Patram, Om Am Arca Mandala, Dvarasa Kalatmane Namaha. Where this time we're offering to the conch shell itself and not the stand. So we've already offered to the stand, now we're offering to the conch shell. Then one should stick the flower petal on Tulsi leaf to the conch shell. So the conch shell has a bulbous backside and it has a spout area right on the side of the round part of the conch shell that should be there. And some people want to put it on the back end of the conch shell. Okay, somewhere on the outside of the conch shell. After this, one should take. I would normally put it on the side of the bulbous part of the conch shell because it'll probably stick on better there, right? Because all of these flower petals and Tulsi leaves with Chandan are meant to stick to the items that you're offering them to after you offer them. After this, one should take another flower petal dipped in Chandan and Tulsi leaf and perform the worship of the moon globe in the water of the conch shell, right? So this we're offering this, the first one to the stand, second one to the conch shell, and third one to the water inside the conch shell. By offering them to the water inside the conch shell, because we just filled up the conch shell, chanting Ete Ganda Pushpe Tulsi Patram Om Soma Mandalaya Sodasa Kalatmane Namaha. And of course, because the nectar comes from the moon, that's why we're worshipping the water inside the conch shell, because we want whatever comes out of the conch shell to be like nectar. So then one should stick the flower petal and Tulsi leaf to the area of the conch shell closest to the water, because you already put a Tulsi leaf and Chandan petal inside the conch shell before you filled it up with water. So you just put it on the tip or on the top of where the spout of the conch shell is, closest to the water. Okay, right. So you don't actually place that in the water, even though you've offered it to the water, right? So now one should call the holy rivers to the water and chant the Krishnamura mantra 8 times over the conch shell in the same manner as when establishing the Panchapatra. So again, you wrap your right thumb around the Brahman thread. You're going to then do the Ankusha Mudra once more, right? Ankusha Mudra. You're going to place the tip of the pad of your middle finger of the right hand on the water inside the conch shell, stir clockwise, and again repeat the same mantras for calling the holy rivers. Okay. This is a little bit of a complicated way to do it. What some other Vaishnavas do, like I'll give you an example for Sri Vaishnavas. What they do is you have a water pot, either with a spout or without a spout, and you pour the holy rivers into the water pot itself, and then when you pour it into all of these other things, like whatever other thing you're going to use, it's already been called like that. So you might take a spoon and take some of the water out, and you might hold your hand over it at eye level, and you might count by moving your fingers up and down and chant mantra like Om Namo Narayana 7 times, and then chant one prayer to the Virja and call the Virja river to come and be inside the water there, like that. So unlike other Vaishnavas, normally the Sri Vaishnavas, they're calling the water from the spiritual world, from the Virja, which is the the river that demarcates the difference between the material world and spiritual world. Of course, Lord Vamanadev, when he was in the Trivikrama avatar and he kicked a hole in the top of the universe, that water, Virja water, came down over his feet, right, and came down to the earth, and was first of all hit on the head of Shiva and then came to the earth. So there's a couple of reasons why the Sri Vaishnavas don't call the Ganges or call these other holy rivers, because the source of all these holy rivers like the Ganges is supposed to be, of course, originally the Virja River, but the Virja River comes down and first of all it goes over Krishna's feet already. So should we take water that's already gone over Krishna's feet and then put it back on top of his head? That's one thought. Another thought by Sri Vaishnavas is after it goes on Krishna's head, it goes on Krishna's feet, on Lord Trivikrama's feet, it then comes onto the head of Shiva, and then it comes off the head of Shiva and comes to it's still considered holy, but it comes off the head of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, of course, is a great Vaishnava and everything, but still, would we want to take water off the head of Lord Shiva and pour it onto Vishnu or pour it onto Krishna in a puja like that? So Sri Vaishnavas, because they're Ekanta Vaishnavas, and they don't want any connection with the worship of other Anya Devatas like Shiva or Durga or whatever like that. So they prefer to take the water from the origin, its source, which is the Virja River. So they meditate upon the water coming from the Virja River. Here, this is just regular, ordinary, everyday. Everybody, every other sect of Hindus, they use Ganges water. They use whatever it is like that. Now, even in Sri Rangam, even in South India, of course, people are taking water originally from holy rivers. They're taking water from the Kaveri. They're taking water from the Ganges, like that, and they're using it to worship the deity. But the meditation on the water is not that it is Kaveri water or Ganges water, but it is Virja water. It is Virja water like that. So we think of it as being pure, which is something like the process of Buddha Shuddhi that we go through. To meditate that our body is pure. We destroy the material elements in the body and recreate them. So like that. So here, we're saying, okay, we have ordinary water, and we make it, here we're saying we want to make it into the holy water of the Ganges and the other 7 holy rivers. And somebody else might say even more holy than that is the origin of the Ganges, the origin of all those rivers. And so let's meditate on that. But if we're going to mentally conceive of the water as being pure, let's conceive of the most pure water that we can, which is the original water, the Virja. Okay, so here we are using the water of the different holy rivers. So again, you make the holy water in the conch shell in that way and chant the Krishnamura mantra and Krishnamura 8 times. So at the same way that you did with the Panchapatra. At this point, one should put a little of the conch shell water in the Arcana Patra. Arcana Patra. So a metal bowl-shaped container. Okay, so you have a small container called an Arcana Patra. I'm not sure if it's used for any other purpose. And you will pick up the conch shell that you've just done this, invoke the holy rivers into, and pour a little bit of the water into that Arcana Patra, right? Then put the conch shell back on the stand, and then take this Arcana Patra and pour some water out of it and sprinkle some water on your whole body, right? On your own body, and then also sprinkle it on all the other puja paraphernalia 3 times. Yes? Then the rest of the water that was in the conch shell, so you've just used a little to sprinkle on all the paraphernalia. The rest of the water that's in there should be thrown in the throw-out pot or the Visarjaniya Patra, right? After this, again, you place the conch shell back on the stand. Every time you pick it up, you put it back on the stand. After this, you fill it up again with water from the water pot, saying Om Shirase Swaha. This water will later be used to bathe the deity. Okay, so that's very interesting because you haven't invoked or meditated on the water in the water pot as being pure. You haven't called the holy rivers into the water in the water pot. If you had done that in the beginning, then you wouldn't have had to call them into the Panchapatra when you establish the Panchapatra or when you establish the conch shell. bathing conch shell. So you are now refilling the bathing conch shell, but you're not doing anything to that water, and that water will be poured directly over the deity. Okay, so this is the system of the Sri Vaishnavas, or the system of other people, where they make the whole big water pot. They meditate on that being pure holy water. Make that pure holy water first is probably preferable to the system that they're mentioning here. Okay, but anyway, this is the system that they're mentioning here, so we're going to continue with it. So we're going to then just fill up the conch shell again with the fill up mantra, which is Om Shira Se Swaha, and this water will be used to bathe the deity, the ordinary water from the water pot that we put in it. Now that the bathing conch shell has been established, one should chant the following prayers, meditating upon Krishna's conch shell. So we're offering prayers. So put our hands together and pray to the conch shell and chant the following prayers. Tvampura Sagorapano, Vishnuna Vidrakare, Manita Savade Vaischa, Panchajanya Namostute. Oh, Panchajanya, offer my advice. This is to you. In ancient days, you were born of the ocean and were seized by the hand of Lord Vishnu, and thus you are honored by all the demigods. And the second prayer is Tavanadena Jimuta Vitrashyanti Surasuraha Chasanka Yuta Diptabda Panchajanya Namostute. O Panchajanya, let all obeisances be unto you. O you who are endowed with a brilliant color like the moon, because of your roaring sound of mountains, clouds, mountains, clouds, demigods, and demons tremble in fright. Okay. And the third prayer, Garbha Devari Narinam Vilayanti Sahasrada Tavanadena Patale Panchajanya Namostute. O Panchajanya, let all obeisances be unto you. By your roaring sound in the lower planetary systems, the wombs of the demons' wives are destroyed into thousands of pieces. Okay. So next, once you place a small blowing conch, and you look in the diagram, it's labeled J, in front of oneself and just to the right of the bathing conch. Now, bathing conch is on the left in front of you, and just to the right of that, in between you and the bathing conch, we put the blowing conch. This conch shell should be blown 3 times before one bathes the Lord. Or if there's an assistant pujari, he can blow it throughout the bathing period of the deity. So during the whole time that the deity is being bathed, like that. So you can also take this as a general instruction for when you do Abhishekam of the deity also. Because Abhishekam of the deity is nothing but all these preliminaries, everything that's done for puja is done also for the Abhishek of the deity. Is basically like a public puja. Yeah. Of course, usually the dressing, of course, afterwards of the deity and decorating and everything is an offering of foodstuffs that's done privately, but everything else is done publicly. The offering of Argipatria, Achimania, Madopaka, and maybe some of the offering of scents and massage and everything like that. It's all done publicly in Abhishek. So in front of the blowing conch and a little further away from oneself in front, right between you and the deity, one should establish the bell, which is labeled K in the diagram. Pouring a few drops of water on the floor, one should use the water to draw a triangular design, either the Satkona or the inverted triangle, on the place where the bell will sit. Okay, so normally what people do is they have a little plate, a small plate that they establish first, and they establish the bell on top of the plate because we don't normally want to put the bell directly on the floor. Of course, if you're doing puja when you're standing, you can place the bell on the altar or something like that, but normally we don't put the bell straight on the floor. It does seem here that they're putting the bell directly on the floor. Normally that's not done. Okay, so by chanting Om Astraya Pat, again, the weapon mantra, we take some water from the water pot into the right hand, sprinkle it on the bell, which should be sitting on a small round metal tray. Here we go, see, right. A little bigger than the circumference of the bell. Then saying Om Adara Shakti Namaha, we establish it, we place the bell on the triangular design. Okay, so what I would say is, just as we had a stand for the conch shell, for the bathing conch, and in fact, we need a stand for the blowing conch too. So when we're establishing the blowing conch, we don't just put the blowing conch on the ground. We should have another triangular conch shell stand for the blowing conch, and we should sprinkle that, establish that, sprinkle the blowing conch, and then establish that, and all the same mantras and all procedures should be gone through. And then we should do the same thing with the bell. Sprinkle the plate, little round plate, put it there in front of us, right on the triangular design, sprinkle the bell, and then put it there with, of course, Omastraya Pat, then Omadara Shakti Namaha. Okay, so once we have the bell in place, then we should then chanting Om Jaya Dhvani Mantra Matre Swaha. One should offer in arti fashion a flower petal dipped in Chandan to the bell, and one should adhere the flower petal to the bell. The bell should then be rung. Okay, so we offer it. We can't really ring a bell in the right hand while we're doing this, because the bell itself has to be established unless we have another bell it's already been established in the deity room. Okay, so then touch it, place and stick it to the side of the bell, and then pick up the bell with the right hand and ring it like that. Or we can pick it up with the right hand, move it to the left hand and ring it like that. Some people just pick it up with the left hand, but more orthodox people will pick up the right hand, pass it to the left hand and ring it, or just pick it up with the right hand at this point and just ring it. So then one should, now that the bell has been established, one should chant and place it back down on the established plate in the place where it's supposed to be. One should chant the following prayer, meditating on the bell as a servant of the Supreme Lord. Sarvavadya mayi ghante deva devasya valave fam vina naiva sarvesham shubham bhavati shobhane. O beautiful bell, O one who is dear to the God of gods, Sri Krishna, you embody the sweet sound of all music. Without you, there is no auspiciousness for anyone. Right. And there are different types of bells also that you can get. Normally, the bells used by different Vaishnava Sampradayas have different emblems on the top. It's very common to find in North India a bell with Garuda on the top. It's also very common in South India if you have the Madhvas, they'll have a bell with a Hanuman on top. The Sri Vaishnavas will have a bell with Shankar Chakra. One side is one side's a branch, one side's a disc on top. You have even Shaivites in South India. They have a bell with Nandi, the bull carrier of Shiva on top. So the emblem on top of the bell is usually according to the Sampradaya, according to the type of Vaishnava or Hindu that is there. But anyway, a lot of times you see very common is Garuda in North India, Garuda on top of the bell like that. Some bells don't have any emblem on the top. Okay, that's also fine. So now one should establish the Padmasana number is labeled N on the diagram, containing this container that holds water for washing the Lord's feet in front of the bathing conch and slightly further away from oneself. So we have the next to ourselves, in front of ourselves on the left, we have first of all the blowing conch, and then a little further away to the left the bathing conch, and then in front of the bathing conch, it says here, does it say that? In front of the bathing conch. One should establish the Panchapatra, right? In front of the bathing conch shell. Okay. This is done by marking a triangular design on the floor where the Panchapatra is to sit. Then take some water in the hand, right, from the spouted water pot into the right hand, sprinkle it on the patra, which is going to be on the tray next to you with all the other items that you need. Chanting Omastraya Pat, then take it and then place it with your right hand on the triangular design, saying Omadara Shakti Namaha, establishing it there. Then stick a Tulsi leaf and Chandan, a Tulsi leaf and flower petal dipped in Chandan in the middle of the Panchapatra, inside the Padmasana. One should put some Tulsi leaves in it, except when worshipping the spiritual master. Okay, so they're making an exception here. If you're doing puja for the guru, you don't put Tulsi leaves in the Padya, because we won't offer Tulsi on the feet of the guru. We could also not offer Tulsi leaves on the feet of any other deity. They haven't mentioned it here, but onto the feet of any other deity that is not Vishnu Tattva. So if you have a female deity of Mohini, Vishnu Tattva, you can offer Tulsi leaves on her feet. If you have another deity like Radha or the Gopis or some other non-Vishnu Tattva deity, don't offer the other. It begs a question as to how you would worship some deities like Panchapatra. If you're all worshiping Panchapatra together, some of them are Vishnu Tattva, some of them are not Vishnu Tattva. Are you going to have different padya? Are you going to have different containers of padya? So that's not, they don't go into that here, because the example puja which they use in this book is for the guru, and so therefore they've mentioned the guru. The rest of the spiritual master don't, because he's a human being, he's not a Vishnu Tattva, so you're not offering. Tulsi leaves on his feet. You could have, of course, offer Tulsi leaves to his hand or put it in his hand to offer to Krishna, but not on his feet. So therefore they wouldn't go in the Padmapatra, because the Padmapatra is water for washing the feet, right? So, and then the patra and then fill the patra with water from the water pot. Now, it doesn't say here that you say Om Hridayaya Namaha and Om Shirse Swaha, but in fact, most people will say Om Hridayaya Namaha when they place the Tulsi and flower petal with Chandan on it inside the Padmapatra, and they'll also say Om Shirse Swaha when they fill it up with water from the pot. Right, after this, one should take one sacred thread and wrapping it around one's thumb. One should chant the Krishnamura eight times over the Padmapatra. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure. They left out a few things here. Are you going to the water that you pour into the Padmapatra, right? Are you going to invoke the holy rivers in it with the Ankusha Mudra and your with your thumb wrapped around the Brahman thread? Are you going to do that? Right? So it doesn't actually, does it say it? Oh yeah. From this point, one should take the sacred thread and wrapping it around stone, one should chant the Krishnamura mantra over the Padmapatra. But it doesn't actually say one should call the holy rivers like that. Remember, in this system, right, they haven't said to call the holy rivers into the spouted water pot. So you're just putting plain water in there, ordinary water, like that. So, but you are putting Tulsi in it. Okay, so the water becomes purified by Tulsi. In any case, normally all of these things would be much easier. It would be much easier to pour the holy rivers into the water pot first. The left hand should be covered so that you don't, we've already mentioned that before, so there's not really any reason to mention it again. And chant the Mula Mantra 8 times. In front of the Padmapatra, one should establish the Argipatria. So in front of the bathing conch, you have the Padmapatra. In front of the Padmapatra, you're going to establish the Argipatria, which is labeled O in the diagram, the container, which holds various liquids and ingredients for offering the Lord to drink. This is not a drink. Argya is not a drink. It's water for washing the hands or sprinkling over the head or whatever it is. In this book, they give some idea that it should be made with milk and rice grains and kush grass tips or some things like that. Okay, if you're going to follow this book directly, then put those ingredients. Those are going to be added. Those are going to be added to this patra. Now, in practical senses, what happens is when you have mixtures like Madopaka, or you have a mixture of Argya which has certain things in it like that, a lot of times people will pre-mix those things in patras on the tray that they bring in, right? But the normal thing is that you would have what a lot of people do is they have a thing called astagandha, which is 8 different types of herbs and spices like that. And what they'll do is they'll wash the vessels, they'll throw the water out after washing the vessels, then they'll put some flower petal and tulsi leaf with chandan inside each vessel, and then they'll take a little bit of this spice powder, different spice powders. Sometimes there's different spice powders for Achimania and for Padya and for one. And they'll put a little bit in there, saying Namaha, and then Sirse Swaha, they'll fill up each one of these vessels. Okay, here they're doing it a little different. They're not giving us exact details of how to do it exactly. So anyway, one should draw a triangular design as usual on the floor, right in front of the Padmapatra for the Argipatria. Wash the patra while chanting on the Sraya Pat. Place on the triangular design. There's an easier way to say all of this because we're going over and over the same things all over again. But anyway, wash the vessel, right? Wash the vessel on the Sraya Pat with water, right? Place the vessel on the triangular design. Establish it. Place a tulsi leaf, except for worship of the spiritual master, and a flower petal dipped in chandan inside the vessel, like that. And again, we would say Om Hridaya Namaha. They don't say it here. Then, and then add the ingredients for Argya. So whatever the ingredients are. The ingredients are as follows, according to them, for Argya. Water, milk, yogurt, the tips of kusha grass, if available. White rice, that means uncooked, whole white rice. Right, you have to wash it first, of course. White mustard seeds. They're not really white, but they're light colored, right? Mustard seeds. And barley and sesame seeds. Or a shortened form would be Chandan, which means Ganda, means the sandalwood paste, which is always mixed with camphor, flower petals, and water. So this will be much more convenient. Just Chandan, flower petals, and water. That will sample the water. Okay, so for Vishnu type of deities, Tulsi leaves may also be added to the list of ingredients. After ingredients have been added, one should chant the Krishnamura mantra over the Argipatria 8 times in the same manner as was done for the Panchapatra. Now, what they're doing here is the chanting of the Mula mantra, Krishnaya Namaha, over the containers is like purifying everything in the container and purifying the container. In Hari Bhakti Vilas, they do mention, but they don't explain how to do it, the method of Soshana, Dahana, Plavana, drying, burning, and nectarizing things, and then showing Surabhi Mudra to purify things. So, but that's not mentioned here because this is a very shortened Paddhati. Okay, so next one should establish the Achimania Patra. Achimania Patra. So it's labeled as a P in the diagram. This is a container for holding water to wash the Lord's mouth in front of the Argipatria. So you have the bathing conch shell in front of that. This is all on the left, on your left side. Bathing, then the Padmasana, the Argipatria, and now the Achimania Patra. Right, so in the same manner as the 2 previous patras. So what do? You do the diagram, the little star diagram or triangle diagram, right? You with water, and then you sprinkle the patra. You establish the patra. You place tulsi leaf and flower petal or sound paste in the middle of it on Hridaya Namaha. You fill it up with with water, which contains some spices, perhaps for the Achimania. We'll see. So, in the same previous, after establishing the Achimania, but one should place a flower petal dipped in Chandan and Tulsi leaf, except for the Guru, except one is from the Guru, and a mixture of nutmeg, ground nutmeg, not a nutmeg, ground nutmeg, ground cloves, and water. So, nutmeg and cloves, you can keep that all mixed already, and you can have a little bit and put it in there. No need to do it every day. And water from the water pot. One should chant the Krishnamura mantra 8 times over the Achimania Patra as previously described, right, to purify it. Right, now one should establish the Madopaka Patra. Madopaka Patra is for the Madopaka, and Madopaka in front of the Achimania Patra, right. So it says, in the same way as the other Patras are established, then one should add a Tulsi leaf and flower petal dipped in Chandan, as well as the Madopaka mixture, which is a mixture of milk, yogurt, sugar, ghee, and honey. So this is more or less what we call Panchapatra, the 5 nectars, like that. So we have milk, yogurt, and ghee, which comes from the cow, and then we have sugar and honey, like that. So like that. So there's a certain ratio. Some people, there's other ways to make Madopaka, but this is the way they're saying to do it here, and we should do that. Now, one should keep which should be kept in a container to the side of oneself. Okay, so on the tray that we brought everything in, we have a container with all these things mixed up, all these ingredients, these Panchamrita ingredients mixed up already, and then we can just pour that into the Madopaka Patra, like that. But what people do in general is they have the Madopaka Patra, they put the Madopaka in it, and they put it on a tray and bring it into the deity room or the puja room, ready to place on the place where we're going to establish it. That's usually what people do. Okay, so then we should chant Krishnamura mantra 8 times over the Madopaka as done for the other patras. Now one should establish in front of the deity's asana, in front of the deity's asana, which should be directly across from oneself. So if you're facing east, the deity's facing west, facing you, and in front of the deity's asana, one should establish a Snana Patra. The Snana Patra, which is the bathing receptacle, the place we're going to take the deity from the altar and we're going to place the deity in the Snana Patra, the bathing receptacle, and we're going to bathe the deity in the bathing receptacle. It's also called a Snana Vedi, a place where the deity is, and if in bigger installations and things like that, where we have to bathe bigger deities, we'll have a separate sort of temple area, like a mandapa, which is called the Snana Mandapa or the Snana Vedi. The Vedi means an altar, and the mandapa means where it's enclosed, yeah, inside. Okay, so in the following way, so we have this, Snana Vedi. Now the Snana Patra, it can be as simple as a dish which has got a raised lip so that it can catch some of the water and different items that we pour over the deity, or it can actually have a spout to the side, or holes in the bottom to let the water out, and be collected as Charanamrita. So the Snana Patra, with water, one should make a triangular design on the floor. This is in between you and the deity's throne, where the Snana Patra will sit. Now, normally people, if they're worshipping little deities, they'll have a little table, a little raised table in front of them, and they'll, at least in North India, in South India, a lot of people will be standing when they do this. So if you're sitting down, you probably have a little raised table where you do this, but it could be established on the floor if you're going to, do one of these diagrams and establish it right on the floor like that. But you have to be careful not to let the Charanamrita flow away. So normally people have a little bit of a raised what's called a chowki, a little square table or a little table on which the Snana Patra is going to sit. So we established the triangular design, then we're going to wash the Snana Patra again, saying Omastraya Pat with some water from the right hand, which is taken from the water pot, and place the bathing receptacle on the triangular design in front of the deity's asana, chanting Om Adara Shakti Namaha, establishing the Snana Patra. Next, one should place the incense holder eye, which in the diagram is labeled eye, with 3 sticks of incense, that is Argipatria. So if we're using incense Argipatria, otherwise if you're using some other type of incense like Samrani on hot charcoals, then you'll have an incense holder like that, and so it's established. But here it's just the 3 sticks. Now, if you have sticks like this, how are you going to light the sticks? You probably will have a standing lamp there, which also has to be established and also has to be lit. They're not mentioning anything like that here, but so it's assumed that somebody has some matches or a lighter or something to light this wick with, light this incense with, and similarly the wick with the ghee wick, the 5-wick ghee lamp. Okay, so next we establish the incense holder in front of ourselves. Now, it doesn't say to do anything. You just take it and put it on the floor in front of you like that. Now, having gone through so much trouble to establish things, why would we place something directly on the floor without doing the triangular diagram, without washing it with Omastraya Pat, without establishing it Om Adara Shakti Namaha? So probably you could do that too, like that. Here they're not mentioning to do that. And then it says after this you should place this is to the right of the blowing conch, to the right of the blowing conch. The right of the blowing conch is also closer to you even, right? And then after this, a 5-wick ghee lamp. It could be one wick, 3 wicks or whatever, but here they're saying 5-wick ghee lamp, H in the diagram, on a small metal tray to the right of the incense holder. So somehow or other they want to put they've mentioned they're going to put the lamp on the tray. You're going to establish a tray first and then put a lamp on the tray, but they're not going to put a lamp for the incense because the incense in a holder already. So maybe they consider that holder to be like the thing holding it up, whatever. Okay, so that's fine. It's important later because you're not actually supposed to place a lamp on the floor like that. There's some rule about that, but we do see that in practical sense, sometimes pujaris do that. They place the lamp on the floor. So now one should place the Chandan Patra. So you have an actual container where you have Chandan. You've been using it all along. to dip the flower petals and Tulsi leaves in, right? Sandalwood paste container. In front of the Panchapatra, this is on the right-hand side, a little further away from yourself. So you have the Panchapatra, then you have the sandalwood paste container. Then once you place a Tulsi Patra, which is a flat clay or a flat container or something like that, which has a little tray that has Tulsi leaves on it, Tulsi leaves, Tulsi manjaris, whatever, Tulsi on it, in front of the Chandan Patras, right? Which is in front of the Panchapatra. In front of that, one should place the Pushpa Patra, which is containing flowers. So you have another tray for flowers. The water pot should sit in front of the bell. The bell was established before, I believe, in front of the conch, right? Or if it is too large, right? If the water pot is too large, it can be placed at the side, at each side. It doesn't say which side, but it can be placed over at the side. The Visarjaniya Patra, or the throw pot, F, right? And the Archana Patra, G. So let's have a look at the diagram just again for a second here. Diagram that they have here. They have here, this is supposed to be the Archana Patra, which you use to pour some water and sprinkle it on yourself and all the other items. You have this big tray next to you with all the items on it before you establish them. They have this is the blowing conch, in front is the bell. They haven't shown the plate under the bell, but there is a plate under the bell. And then there's the water pot is a little further away from you. This is not exactly the most practical layout that I've seen, but and then you have the bathing conch. In front of the bathing conch, you have the Padya Argya, Achimania, and Madopaka, and then you have on the other side you have the incense here and the lamp here, and then you have in front of you have the Chandan, the Tulsi, the flowers, and this is F is the throw out pot. What is B? B, Pushpa Patra. B is the Pushpa Patra. So G is the Archana Patra. Yeah. So we got Chandan, Tulsi. So B, they say, is Tulsi. No, is flowers. Is flowers. This is Tulsi. This is Chandan. E is the Panchapatra. Now let's continue on. Okay, so then we're almost finished here. We have Pushpa Patra B, containing holy flowers. The water pot will sit in front of the bell, or if it's too large, it'll be placed by your side. The Visarjani or throw-out pot is F. The Archana Patra G, a metal bowl-shaped container, which is placed on the right side of the Pushpa Patra and Tulsi Patra. Other articles are required for the puja, such as a towel to dry the Lord after bath, scented oil, tilak, etc. It could be clothes, it could be jewels, it could other things like that to adorn the Lord. This person is the small deities should be placed within easy reach. So that's the end of that procedure. Let's just have a look at the abridged procedure here. The unabridged procedure is actually less difficult than it seems upon first reading. However, if one does not feel capable at this stage of performing such a system of worship, he may set up the paraphernalia in the particular position seen in a diagram while meditating that the articles are completely spiritual and in as much as they are the Lord's personal paraphernalia. And it is also worshipable. After the paraphernalia is set up, one should wrap his sacred thread around his thumb and chant the Krishna Mula Mantra Tum Krishnaya Namaha 8 times, covering the fingers of the right hand with his left. And that is the establishment of the articles of worship according to Arcana Paddhati. So after establishing the articles of worship, the next step in Arcana Paddhati worship according to the 1978 BBT Arcana Paddhati, which is based on the Arcana Paddhati by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, right? Is the chanting of certain mantras. So Visnu Smaranam is the next step. So it's enjoined in the Shastras that before performing the puja, one should purify himself by remembering Lord Vishnu and performing Mangala Shanti. So remembering Lord Vishnu, the words Vishnu Smarana means remembering Lord Vishnu. And the next thing is Mangala Shanti, which is auspicious Mangala means auspiciousness, Shanti means peace, so auspicious prayers for peace. So after establishing the patras, or the vessels, and articles of worship, one should recite the following mantras to invoke within the mind remembrance of the Supreme Lord. So that is the Vishnu Smaranam. Here's the unabridged version A. Om is placed in brackets here. So you can chant Om or you don't have to chant Om. It indicates, here in this book, when it's in brackets, it indicates that it's optional. So we normally start prayers with Om. That's very nice. So Om Yam Brahma Vedanta Vido Vedanti Hari Pradhanam Purusham Tatanye Vishwod Gate Karanam Ishwaram Va Tasmay Namo Vigna Vinashaya. Okay? Obeisances under him, who is the destroyer of all obstacles, who the knowers of the Vedanta describe as the Supreme Brahman, and who others describe as the Pradhana, or totality of material elements. Some describe him as the Supreme Male, or Purusha, while others describe him as the Supreme Lord and the cause of creation of the universe. Now, this mantra we also find in the Mangala Charanam of the Satriya Sargipika, which is ascribed to Gopavada Goswami. And the source is said to be the Vishnu Purana, although I have not found it yet in the actual Vishnu Purana texts which are printed today. So now we have a mantra from Rig Veda 122.20. Actually, this mantra is also mentioned. Part of this mantra is also mentioned in the Mangala Charanam of to be chanted before different samskaras in the Satriya Sargipika. But instead of the whole verse from the Rig Veda 122.20, they only give up to the first two lines, and they say that it comes from the Samaveda. Actually, this verse is in the Yajurveda, in the Rig Veda, and also in the Samaveda. Here they've mentioned it's from the Rig. This is the version for the Rig Veda. Most normally, what we see in Gaudiya Vaishnava texts is we only see the first two lines. But in any case, we would have to look in the original Arcana Paddhati. I believe in the original Arcana Paddhati Bhaktisiddhanta, it's only just the first two lines. So this is a Vedic mantra. It should be chanted with proper swaras according to the Veda that it comes into, and according to the Veda that the particular chanter follows, the branch of the Veda. Now, because I follow the Krishna Yajurveda, I'm going to chant a Krishna Yajurveda style. If one wants to chant it Rig Veda style, with only the first, or one wants to chant it Sam Veda style, just the part that comes in the Rig Veda and the Sam Veda, then one can also do that. If anybody who's watching this wants the different styles and wants to learn how to chant it in different style, then you just have to get in touch with me and I'll provide you an audio from a Veda Pati of a particular Veda branch and who's chanting this. But here we go. So let's do Krishna Yajurveda style. Om Tad Vishna Parama Padagam Sada Pasyande Surayaha Diviva Chaksuratatam Tad Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagrivagam Sasamindate Vishno Yak Paramam Padam. Okay, so that's Krishna Yajurveda style. Okay, so it says, just as the sun's rays in the sky are extended to the mundane vision, so in the same way, the wise and learned devotees always see the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu, because those highly praiseworthy and spiritually awake Brahmanas are able to see the spiritual world. They are also able to reveal the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. Rig Veda 122.20. Next verse we have is, again, we have Om in optional to start the mantra. Om Madhavo Madhavo Vachi Madhavo Madhavo VDI Smaranti Sarvaha Sarve Sarvakaryeshu Madhavam. So Madhava, Lord Madhava is in one's words, and Lord Madhava is in one's heart. All the saintly persons remember Lord Madhava, the husband of the goddess of fortune, in all their undertakings. And this is supposed to be from Narasimha Purana. They haven't given a chapter or verse, but we could check that out sometime if somebody really wants to know. I believe that this is also maybe in Satriya Sargipika in the Mangala Charanam. I may not be right there. So let's see. So here's another one, which is said to be coming from the Krishna Upanishad, which is an Upanishad. All the Upanishads belong to one or other of the Vedas. They're considered to be connected to different Vedas. The Krishna Upanishad, or Krishna Upanishad, is supposed to be connected to the Rig Veda. So I've looked this up. This is not in the printed version of the Krishna Upanishad, at least the one published by Adya Library in Chennai, in Madras, in South India. And so I don't know exactly where this mantra comes from, but in any case, we would have to, if it's I don't think that the Krishna Upanishad has ever been printed with swara markings, with tonal markings. So this, when we have a Vedic text, it's supposed to be a Vedic mantra, right? It's coming from the Rig Veda, from an Upanishad. But we do not have the swara markings. We don't know exactly how it's chanted with different tones. So the previous mantra was from a Purana, so it's a classical Sanskrit. It's just chanted what we call ekashruti, or monotone. So this can also be chanted monotone. So Om Krishna Vai Sachidananda Gannaha Krishnadi Purushaha Krishnaha Purushottamaha Krishnoha Ukaramadi Mulam Krishnaha Sahasarvei Karyaha Krishnaha Karsham Piladisha Mukaprabhu Pujaha Krishnonadis Tasmina Jantan Tarbahye Yan Mangalam Tallavate Kriti. Okay, so now we don't even see, we could also chant it without chanting the Visargas, without giving the echoes to all the Visargas. The reason I made the echoes of the Visargas is although there is no comma or danda in Sanskrit here, I don't feel comfortable chanting this whole sentence without any breaks in breaths. I don't know that I could do it. So I have to decide where I'm going to take the breaks and breaths. So I have simply waited until I got a Visarga and fully pronounced the echo of the Visarga, Ganaha, Adipurushaha, Krishnaha, Purushottamaha, like that, so that I can breathe while I'm chanting it. If we find this mantra somewhere with swara markings, then of course we can learn the actual tones of how to chant it. Otherwise, as I said, it can be chanted ekashruti, or monotone, and that can be done. So what is the meaning of the mantra? The meaning of the mantra is, Lord Krishna is the color of a new rain cloud. Therefore, he is compared to a transcendental cloud full of eternity, bliss, and cognizance. He is the original and supreme person. He is the origin of all activities and the one and only Lord of all. He is the worshipful Lord of the best of the demigods, the controller of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Krishna is without any beginning. Whatever auspiciousness is found within or beyond this universe, the devotee obtains in Krishna alone. Krishna Upanishad Rig Veda. Then we chant Om Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now the abridged procedure for doing that is to chant. One may chant the above mantras or any combination of them and then chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Okay, the Hare Krishna mantra. Okay, so that is the Vishnu Smaranam.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya.